living room. This is where the layout exists, 4 foot by 2 foot. Plenty going on if you've seen all the videos of it. But really what it started off was at college studying HND graphic design, and I had an idea of doing a layout in December 2019, around about the time I was tying up one of the projects. We had many briefs we were given covering various subjects, from doing a booklet for an opera, or doing a magazine, or coming up with a label for a skateboard, and one of them was whiskey, the angel share. The breathing in the background is my dog, in case you wonder what heavy breathing is, little Deebs. But yeah, the idea for the layout spawned from the graphic design brief that I was given, and it was for a company called the Angel Share and their brand called Waterhorse. And looking into it, obviously being very Scottish, the research I'd done on it, I came up with the designs that I'll include as I speak. So initially we came up with the Angel Share logo, which is the company name for the distillery, and then we went with the brand of malt whisky, which I decided was a West Highland single malt, and Waterhorse was the name. And the design I come up with is based on the history and folklore of Waterhorse, and the Waterhorse is actually within a folklore range called the Kelpies, which Loch Ness Monster is also a part of. And the Waterhorse is basically half horse, half whale. It used to call travellers into lakes and rivers, and they would basically get swept down to the bottom and killed, obviously. That's the kind of folklore story about wandering next to these lochs at particular times of year, particular times of day, that you might run the risk of being called. Something similar to the sirens on the shore from Greek mythology. But yeah, the Waterhorse was basically an idea that once I started designing it, I really liked the kind of pin dot technique. I wanted to be quite classy, like black and white, the use of gold. So these were all elements that I brought into the design, and you'll see from the packaging and the bottle images that I put into this video that I basically wanted to create something that felt it was real, not just a project for college. And I think I achieved that. I think when you look at the bottle and box designs, that it very much looks like something you would see in your local supermarket. And the history of the Kelpies is fascinating because it's all part of Scottish folklore, and we have many myths and stories and fables. It's a country very much entrenched with this sort of folklore and history, which is fascinating, and I thoroughly enjoyed designing the designs and coming up with it. So January 2020, buying my very first train set, and thought, right, what am I going to do with this? After looking at many variations of model railways online, I realised excuse me, I realised that there was enough room in my apartment to basically put a 4 foot by 2 foot layout, which the camera is sitting on. That's what I keep looking down at, is this layout. Now what we'll do is I'll pick up the camera and run through some of the things relating to the layout and why I came up with it. So here we are in the corner of the layout. There's the Waterhorse with the logo, whale tail, horse's head, and it's a West Highland single malt Scotch whisky. And Angel Share is the company. Now these are Metcalfe buildings that everybody knows and loves in many layouts across the world. And what I'd done with these was paint them white and black to make it look like a distillery building. So I've got a little cut out at the back here of a distillery building with the black and white, Then we have another one here where I've put the Angel Share logo on in the backdrop, and the water in the background. Move this tripod. Water in the background, you can see, is the supply for the distillery. Call that Loch Elder. I'm not going for any specific area in Scotland, it's just the general feel of a West Highland whisky distillery. Now these scenic areas were the very first attempts at doing rocks and grass. In the corner here we have an abandoned track for some abandoned line, and we move along and we see some of the scenery that was done. Have a little train spotter guy, and then we have Dave Thompson Sr. Who's passed away, and Dave Thompson Sr. had a train set, and his family very kindly donated much track, rolling stock, locomotives to get me started in this hobby. Now unfortunately some of the stuff was very old, so I've spent a good bit of time trying to resurrect it, bring it back to life, and I've managed to get 3 locomotives running thanks to videos on YouTube. So the back scene's just hand painted by me, some clouds, kind of match in with that area. It's all work in progress this end. Still feel I've got some things to do as far as tying the back scene in properly. SDMF is strength, determination, merciless, forever. Some people will know where that comes from, some won't, but I'll leave it for you to find out. So as you move across the bridge with a little bit of graffiti on it, this basically gives you a look down the pathway that runs along this old railway line. We have a disused siding here with one of my first kit built box fans in tarpaulin. Moving into the scenics and the ballast. Scratch built oil tank, one of my very first scratch builds. This is a little area to deal with controlling the pump and other stuff. Basically when you're building a model railway you got all this kit and you just want to put it in the right place to offer an element of realism in a fictional space. There's an old box fan from that layout. Some any scale kits. So we have this disused space here. Then move around to the classic Bachmann Scenecraft refueling point. A Metcalf building, not painted black and white, left purely for the purpose of being a goods area. We have some pallets with boxes of whisky on it there. We have the scratch built malt room that I made. This malt room where the malted barley gets put on in order for it to get warmed up, the floor gets warmed up that you see that little guy standing on, and it all gets turned. And it's basically to cause the little grains to form little tails, and that's part of the process in the malting room, which has a furnace in it, which we have below there. Again, this is all scratch built, excuse the camera shadow. Polyfiller on the side of cardboard to create that wall, and then cardboard to create the roof. And I decided to make it an open view so people could see what's happening in this room. And again, there's our various things related to the distillery. And at the back here, in order to cover the track, the siding that goes in there, I've scratch built this little kind of warehouse type building attached to it where the grain deliveries go. Put some little vents on, and it's purely to tie in the back end of the scene. Scratch built the silo as well. Added little white stones in. Got some little posters on the wall. Little couple arguing whether the man wants to go back for another wee swifty because the train's late, so he's figuring, let's go back in the distillery and get another little half or two, darling. And she's debating the fact. So this end we have a little goods end of the platform at the station, and the layout is based anywhere from the 1900s to 1980s. I decided to cover a large area of period of time in order to have various steam running locomotives and diesel. So we have a Helgen class 27 here. And this is a coaling area, some crates, it's fenced off, Pico water tower. I had a go at weather, and this is all kind of practice. I enjoy doing it. It's maybe not as good as some, but it still serves its purpose, adds an element of realism. And that's a little scratch built goods platform there from the Metcalf platform building kit. We have our double yard lamps in, some single yard lamps. And if we move across here to the station, again all Metcalf. My dog's snoring away, still not willing to get up today. Let's have a little look at the track work. Now the Angel Share, as I said, came from a college design, and then I decided to do a switch in layout, and this layout basically came about from looking at many other layouts, following the Inglenoot idea, where we have 3 lines coming off in order to sort out our incoming and outgoing freight, and a little fuel siding that also gets used as a goods siding. Here we have the kit that Sam at Peaks 47 designed for scale model scenery. That's the Janus Shunter that I won from Tim at Island Scenics in his competition for 1000k subscribers. Then we move out to the front. That's my attempt at a little tent made out of foil and some plastic. Move around the back, and this is where the cards go for when I'm working out my shunting duties. Now, one of the things about this layout is that the Angel Share, so happens there's a really good Scottish movie by the same name. I suggest you check it out. It's probably rated whatever, over 12-year-olds at least anyway, I'd imagine, for this film. Maybe 16, but check your rating. But yeah, the Angel Share, check it out. This particular movie obviously is relating to the Angel Share, which, if no one knows, so much whisky every year evaporates inside the barrel and cask. Now, that portion is classed as the Angel Share. That's the Angel's tipple, as it were, because obviously so many millilitres of whisky disappears from a barrel each year, and it's down to evaporation. The movie, called The Angel Share, is obviously based on a whisky distillery and a group of young folks interested in this particular distillery. Now, the distillery in the movie was based in Balblair Distillery in Scotland, and at Balblair Distillery, where the Angel Share was filmed, there's a place called Ederton, and there's a very, very old stone, similar to something you would see at Stonehenge, called Clachbrioch, the pointed stone. So I decided to make a pointed stone and add it to the layout as a little nod towards the movie that I thoroughly enjoyed, that also shares the same name as my layout. So there's the pointed stone. And I think these little reference marks inside your own layout are just little ideas that you can add to your own layout. Stick something in that's vaguely related to it, but it gives it a story, and it gives it a premise and a reason for being. You probably saw this little pole in the previous one. This is my shunting pole. Basically, it's an old paintbrush, a bit of wire bent 90 degrees. So let's bring that forward a bit. So basically, bosh, twist, separated, obviously because I'm on camera, I'm catching the buffer, shaky hand and all that. The gate we see here in the foreground, one of my coffee stick builds. This is the Fiddle Yard. Got 3 tracks set up in there so I can run stock to and from the Angel Share, have passenger cars coming in and out, and vary the freight stock that comes in and out. And once they come onto scene, I sort them out and shunt them and move them about. Now below the layout we have some IKEA shelves. That's the 009 stuff in the plastic container there. It's my Gauge Master controller, 3-track controller with a brake simulator. One of them's working the lights, and spaces to put all train related stuff away. So thanks for sticking with me in this update about the history of the Angel Share whisky distillery layout and Waterhorse whisky, where it comes from, and some of the little pointers that I've added and some of the reasons why I've put these things in here. So thanks again for watching, take care, all the best, from Brian at the Angels.